we're diving into the 3 tools that I use on a weekly basis in DeFi and how you can actually use them to their fullest potential. Now, some of these are free, some of these have freemium features where you have to pay for certain features, and others are completely paid. So let's go ahead and dive in. First things first, DeFi Llama. This is the most popular DeFi tool out there simply because it has so much data, including TVL, yields, correlations, borrow aggregators. All of that stuff is right here in the DeFi Llama dashboard. And they've built other products beyond just analytics, which is very, very cool. And they're definitely an inspiration to us over at my software company, which I'll cover a little bit later on. But let's talk about how I'm actually using DeFi Llama, because primarily it's for a state of the market assessment. Like, is DeFi growing? Is it declining in overall TVL? Are we seeing higher or lower volume across all decentralized exchanges? What's happening with the ETFs? Are they seeing inflows or outflows? What protocols are generating the most fees? How are stablecoins doing? And then sometimes when I do want to look for yields that aren't concentrated liquidity pools, I will always use DeFi Llama. This is my go-to tool out there. And that's because DeFi Llama does support concentrated liquidity, but not to its fullest extent. Like over on Metrics Finance, we can pull up these concentrated liquidity pools, start to simulate results with our specific range, simulate the position performance. It's much more comprehensive there. But with that being said, if I want to find opportunities on lending and borrowing, which I do so often, as well as find opportunities for just counterparty vaults or simple vaults where they do it for you, DeFi Llama is the place to go. And you can get very, very granular with these filters. So if I want to look at stuff like ETH, I could say, hey, I want to look at pools that include ETH as well as pools that include Bitcoin. And then from there, we could say we want to look across Ethereum, Base, and Solana chains. And we want to look at these specific projects. And maybe we don't really care about liquid staking, but we do care about these other opportunities. So we can uncheck that one. We could say, hey, we want to look at no impermanent loss pools. So these are going to be ones that are single asset exposure or multiple derivatives of ETH together. And maybe we want to look at pools that have above a $2.5 million TVL, but below $10 million in TVL. We can type that in right over here and browse across those pools. And of course, we want a decent APY. So let's do above, say, 5%. And we got 37 different pools right here. And they have a lot of other categories here as well. And what people often overlook when they are browsing DeFi Llama for yields is the fact that you can go into detail on these pools. So let's just say I am browsing this and I'm like, okay, ETH over here on Year in Finance, this looks pretty solid. Let's dive in. So we click on it, we open it up. This will take us over to the details page, and you could see the overall TVL over time, as well as the APY over time. So this is showing all the way back to March 15th, 2024. So we have a lot of data to browse. If I look at the recent data though, let's just say we want to look specifically at June of 2025 to date, which is July 2nd, basically. You could see there was a huge APY spike, but then it kind of declined to around 10 to 15% or so. And now it's currently at 20%. That's pretty solid. This might be a good opportunity. We can also see that the TVL has grown, so people are starting to take advantage of this high Ethereum APY. And then from here, if we scroll down, we can go directly to the website, which is going to pull up the vault. So we have Ethereum over here, and it's going to show the APY. So right now the historical APY is 2%, but it is at 20% simply because there are a lot of rewards coming into this specific vault, which is why it's doing a higher return. Now, before we dive into the rest of DeFi Llama, I am hosting a live virtual event for completely free next week. So make sure to RSVP so you guys can be there. All you have to do is go to the link down below in the description. Just hit reserve your spot. It will shoot you a calendar invite and you'll be good to go. And of course, I'm sure you guys want to know what you're signing up for. I'm going to be revealing every single little detail about my DeFi formula process on day 1. On day 2, I'm going to be going into how you can actually implement it using tools like DeFi Llama, CoinMarketCap, Metrics Finance. And then day 3, I'm going to dive into how you can optimize the portfolio after it's deployed and master DeFi so you can scale your portfolio. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. 3 days, 2 hours each day. So make sure to set aside some time and add it to your calendar, and it'll be live here on YouTube. But diving back into DeFi Llama. So not only do they have the opportunities that I just showed you under the yield section, they have the ability to filter down some of these yields. So we could look at stablecoin pools in specific. These are only going to show us stablecoins. And then from there, we have the same exact filters. We can look at APYs, say higher than 20%, and then TVL is higher than maybe $2.5 million. And from there, we have a couple different opportunities and we can view the same data. So again, stablecoin opportunities, I do prefer DeFi Llama over Metrics Finance. Metrics Finance doesn't have great functionality for stablecoins and other opportunities. I will say that. On top of that, if we go over to the halal section, this is going to be higher quality yields over here. So there's not as many pools, but ultimately it's going to show us stuff that is relatively real yield and consistent and uses solid projects. So you'll see a lot of Uniswap, Curve, Convex, stuff like that, just the top decentralized exchanges. Now, one thing that people often overlook about DeFi Llama as well is actual volumes. So one of the things I like to do on DeFi Llama is look at what's trending when it comes down to volume and provide liquidity there. So you'll notice that Uniswap has $83 billion in volume nearly over the past 30 days, yet PancakeSwap has $156 billion in volume. So I definitely want to be providing liquidity over on PancakeSwap to make sure I capture that. Why? Because if we take a look at Uniswap, you'll see they have $5 billion in TVL, yet PancakeSwap only has $2 billion in TVL. They have a higher volume to TVL ratio. Simple as that. There's also Radium over here doing some solid volume. We have Pump Fund, Meteora, Orca, and we can continue to go on down the list. When it comes down to looking for high quality DeFi projects, a lot of the times this is if I want to invest into a new token that is related to a DeFi project. You can go over to the fees and revenue section. Under fees, you can find things that are generating high fees. Like Meteora generates a lot of fees. But how much of that is revenue? That's what we have to dive into. So that's where revenue comes into play. And you can see Meteora isn't even in the top 10 in this instance. It has generated $207,000 in revenue over the past 24 hours. Still pretty dang good in my opinion. Wish I was generating that much. With that being said, PancakeSwap generating $65 million a month, and you can continue to go on and on and on down this list. Another very cool part of DeFi Llama is token unlocks. This is great for looking at specific tokens that have upcoming unlocks, but I will say it is specific to DeFi platforms. You're not going to really see a lot of tokens over here that don't have a DeFi platform. So if you're looking over here, they have Celestia, they have Quinta, they have Staked Out. All of these platforms are going to be over here, but you're not going to see stuff along the lines of Render in this instance if we search it. Now, another amazing product that DeFi Llama has is something called Llama Swap, and this is their aggregator to make sure that you get the best route out of your trade, make sure you get the best outcome. And I use this on a daily basis whenever it comes down to trading as well. Now, there's so much to go into regarding DeFi Llama, but unfortunately, we don't have enough time in this single YouTube video because we have some other protocols to cover. So that's what I'm going to be covering in that event next week at 1 p.m. Eastern. Diving into CoinMarketCap, this is great for cryptocurrency data. So if we pull up something like Ethereum, not only are we going to see charts where we can look at the market cap as well as the price, we can also dive into news for this specific asset to see why the price might have went up or went down. They have community sentiment where other people can actually vote over here. You'll see all the links and profiles like the website, the white paper, contract addresses, all of that stuff is stored directly over here. And then one of the other cool sections is the about section where you can actually learn more about what the project is. Now, on top of that, I like to use CoinMarketCap to gauge overall sentiment. So when I take a look over here at cryptocurrencies, they have this market overview section where we could look at the spot market, we could look at the derivatives market, how many cryptocurrencies are popping up on a daily basis, and the fear and greed index of the overall market. So we're currently at roughly 46, where we're currently at in the altcoin season. If we're going to be seeing an altcoin season anytime soon, it's all going to be shown over here. Bitcoin dominance, crypto ETFs, all of that stuff is shown directly on CoinMarketCap. I've seen a lot of other people out there on YouTube just kind of pull from their API and say, hey, we got this great tool out here. They bring in some DeFi Llama data, some CoinMarketCap data, but that's all stored right here, and the dashboards are much prettier and much more snappy, and it's completely free. You don't have to wait for any beta versions or anything like that. And then Metrics Finance, and I will be completely honest with you guys, I own this company right here. No, we do not make a profit on it. We kind of break even every single month because we invest every single dollar back into development. We just released this V3. But let's talk about what Metrics Finance is good at and what it's not good at, because I like being transparent. Metrics Finance is great if you're providing liquidity on, let's just say, a couple days to a couple months basis, because it is going to provide all of that data. If you're providing intraday liquidity, getting in, getting out super quick and super fast, it's not going to be great when it comes down to our discover and simulate functionality, simply because that's too short of a time horizon. But you will be able to track your positions for the supported exchanges. But what it is good at is if you are taking a passive strategy, because maybe you have more capital, or maybe you're a busy professional and you don't have a ton of time to be managing your liquidity pools, you could dive into Metrics Finance and formulate your strategy here. So let's just say we selected Uniswap, QuickSwap, PancakeSwap, and SushiSwap across Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, and base, let's just say, to start with. Then we could start to filter by correlation. So one of the things that I really like about this is correlation above 0.5. Ultimately, that's going to show me stuff that is correlated, meaning lower divergence loss. I also like to look at price volatility lower than 10%, which will only factor out about 100 pools over here. TVL, I like to look at higher than $1 million because I don't want random pools over here. And in that instance, we factored out a couple hundred. And then fees APR, I'll generally look for above 40% because I know once I dive in, once I start to simulate, we could easily get above 40%. And that 40% could become 50, 60, 70% because we have a tighter range. Anyways, that's 42 high quality pools right here. We have Ethereum to wrap Bitcoin. We have egg into Ethereum, Ethereum Fluid, Ethereum WorldCoin, all of those right at the top. We can go down and down and down the list. So let's just pull up Ethereum to wrap Tau over here on Metrics Finance Simulate, and we can start to crunch the numbers over here. So we could say, hey, what if we're deploying, let's just say $30,000 in this position? It's going to tell us how much of each asset we need. And as we start to adjust our range, so perhaps we want to have a little bit tighter of a range, maybe something like 8.5, which would be plus 12% roughly. And then over here, we'd probably want to adjust this to be something along the lines of 60% Tau and 40% Ethereum. So 6.5 to 8.5. Simple as that. And then from there, we can determine how much volume we want to factor in. So you can see we're averaging out to about 1.1 million in volume. And if we look at recent data, that's relatively accurate, right? But you do have to keep in mind, sometimes if you're looking at 30-day calculation time frame, you might have a ton of volume in the first, say, week or 2 weeks of this period, and then all of a sudden it drops off. Well, you'd want to narrow this down to, say, 20 days and cut out that data because, well, it's not accurate. And that's one of the cool things about metrics. It's very composable. It doesn't just say, hey, this APR is the APR that you get, and then it's super inaccurate. You can actually refine things to factor in only recent data. It's one of the things that we're really, really good at, I would say. And then over here with liquidity distribution, we can simulate across different prices. So right now it's showing we're getting a 93% APR as of current liquidity and current price. If we go over here where there's a little bit less, we'll get a little bit higher return, 106%. If we go where there's a little bit more, we'll get 89%. So I know those ranges before deploying. And then one of the other great things about Metrics Finance is the ability to track your position. So you could throw in 1, 2, multiple wallet addresses and track the performance of supported exchanges in network. So anything that you basically see over here on the Discover page is going to be tracked on Metrics Finance for specifically concentrated liquidity pools. And then anything else, you can create a custom position if you want to and just kind of track the performance semi-manually. The rest of the data, like the prices and everything, will be pulled in automatically. But we'll see aggregate data at the very top of just all of the positions. And then if we want to, we can dive a little bit deeper and see more in-depth analytics like the divergence loss across multiple metrics, profit versus HODL. We can look at the price range and how close we are to going out of it. We can add alerts so that way we get notified at our email whenever we're about to go out of range. And we can add hedges to this position if we wish to do so as well. So those are the 3 DeFi tools that I use on a weekly basis. Again, I'm not active every single day in DeFi, but every day that I am active in DeFi, I am using these 3 tools. And again, there are some other tools out there that I do use occasionally, but ultimately not on a every single time I interact with DeFi basis. Also, guys, while you're here, I'm going to put a video on screen that kind of breaks down my DeFi formula strategy. If you guys do want to check that one out, I would highly recommend it because it's going to teach you a little bit more about what I do. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. I want to hear from you. What problems are you currently experiencing in DeFi so that way I can make some more content around it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.